in and drowning in at the moment. So the core tension of the book, apropos Paradise Square, is basically circulating around the Hannah Arendt dichotomy between the ancient split, focusing on the ancient split between doing and being, i.e. action and thinking. So whilst this tension is enduring, it becomes acutely perilous when being or simply living collapses into a thoughtless complicit conformism. And in worlds that abolish our capacity for independent thought, the contemplative life, so what Arendt kind of refers to as vita contemplativa, is reduced to pure economic survival. And then she continues, this sort of reduction or reductive existence is conditioning what she calls the banal, the agent of evil, to unthink. And I said that this banal is what I thought, further than seems very hardened, yet actually really is vulnerable. And this banal is not defined by fixed attributes, but by its status as a property in perpetual fear, driven by a desperate bid for and the mission of survival. The banal learns to hate quickly a sense hierarchy, ups oppressive structures, and serves the so-called puppet master. I had a slip of the tongue last time, which now I will just reenact intentionally. The not only corrupt but corporate puppet master, provided that service guarantees its physical existence. So for Arendt, thinking is a soundless. So when she structures the mind in the life of the mind, the book I'm referring to here, she structures thinking as a soundless two-in-one dialogue with the self, so I conversing with you. A conversation that forms critical judgment in a what she calls nowhere, which is an atemporal space. When this crucial internal dialogue fails, i.e. when we stop thinking, we arrive at the chilling consequence Arendt terms thoughtless being, or what I term the totalitarian banal. So in the book, my goal was to explore an alternative, a being which is thinking, but a thinking that inherently becomes action. And this is where the poetry begins. So I thought hard to don't worry, what to read shortly, briefly. And I chose this because this evening is partly about Adam tonight, and to celebrate his poetry and his writing. So some of you will know that Adam not only inhabits all my books as some sort of a character, which he hates. For example, in my swimming pool book, he's the floating corpse. Semi-naked floating corpse, pretending to be drowning, which it actually did happen. Which actually did happen, I never lie. In this one, he's the companion, he's one of the companions of my thinker beer, trying to rebuild these sort of thinking houses where it becomes an action. So, but not only is he a character in my text for the past 16 years, but it is also my co-pen, often. So he was massively part of this specific poem in the making. And in fact, he chose the title for it. Yeah, you don't remember anything. And just to say very briefly, each poem in the book is trying to sort of rebuild and destroy and deconstruct and reconstruct a house, a thinking house, and each is circulating around a poet, either living or dead. So this specific one focuses on a documentary that was done or made in the 1970s. And in this documentary, the modernist poet János Pilinszky incessantly talks, like non-stop, about poetics, art, and the mystic. Apropos anostos, that's Adam's title. Sorry. Apropos anostos, our world, onaniskos, the deeply deviant, genuinely different, the say improbable, uncompanionable poet, the self-persecuted legend, the misremembered rare retro-future teller, quoting Simone Weil from memory, by heart, continues, between writing and being pinned down by the writing, looking quasi-ashen-faced, not so much into, but through the bluish camera lens, as if there were no lens, from one of the rooms of the poet's troglodytic Buddha home, a true cave with narrow windows facing the street, obscured by heavy dark curtains, positioned on the second floor of an old tenement situated in the ancient kernel of the town, as if looking a frightened antelope, not so much presently at as posthumously through you, as if you were yourself merely the frame which holds the blue room, supposedly infernal, instinctive, material, viz. Full of matter, dreadful, viz. Full of dread, mundane, viz. Domiciled, viz. Full of violence, subterranean, viz. Concealed, obscured, physical, factual, which exists, essentially, from where I stand, is mean, monstrous, absurd, fictional. In brackets, the report or the documentary was called Fidelity to the Labyrinth. And one thing I would like to watch out for is the syntax. I went to another launch in London a couple of weeks ago, and my friend Catherine Killeley said, "You totally disregard English syntax." And I was like, I'm not. It's there, but it's labyrinthine. So watch out, perhaps, where I, for example, shift or place the predicate, so the verbs and the subjects, because there is a construction there. Trust me, I worked hard on this. It's not nonsense. The other little thing, just to help you, there is a recurring little word, érted, in the poem, which I quote from the Pilinszky conversation. It means, do you understand? Do you follow me? So, whereas the other world, which Arendt refers to as a mind-made other life, lived simultaneously by the two in one, supposedly ephemeral, non-violent, made from nothing, is non-fictional, also invisible, subliminal, the realm of which you might call the beautiful wanderer, the ecstatic, the term Longinus, among others, discusses on the sublime, a copy which, say, you misplaced and thus misremembered in the midst of moving houses across the city. The house move itself, however, despite the personal loss or displacement of the book, successfully completed with all stuff, one's living anamnesis, fitting into a small suitcase, your pocket self included, dispatched and shipped by a kind stranger's caravan to the new address the day before national lockdown hit in the country. Or perhaps it is just that the book was left on the desk inside boarded up Jessup West, just opposite the derelict Henderson Relish factory in close proximity of Jessup building, formerly known as the Jeffsop Hospital for Women in Broomhall, in which Longinus conjures the concept of hypsos as a form of otherworldly, a kind of posthumous articulation of an astonishing pose, a breathtaking momentum during which speech reaches its own limits and comes to a fundamental and immovable hold, a way of expression from beyond of speechlessness that strikes its listener with the mighty and irresistible power of a thunderbolt, originating from French ecstasy, meaning ecstasy or rupture, from Latin ecstasis, from Greek ekstasis, meaning entrancement, astonishment, insanity, or a displacement or removal, or a sort of exit from the proper place. In the scriptures, a trance, from existenai, meaning to put out of place which doesn't exist, from where I stand, is in fact human, actual, and real. The anonymous poet with the peerless originalness of spring, the citizen of the universe, expelled, exiled from literature, quoting Simone Weil, calls this conflict process of poetic ambition, the paradox of the quiet drama of writing, the simultaneity or confluence of movements on the one hand, of a kind of violation, a kind of tear, the act of tearing your body through the world, a sort of rejection of the world as object, as well as a kind of sketch or the act of sketching this same world down as subject, a so-called drawing the world into the body of work, as the ultimate paradox of irresolvable tension, the drama itself between factuality and reality, spectrality and physicality, is simply between fact or truth-telling. By drama, of course, you might mean a kind of scandal. Piette asks the figurative poet, lighting up another cigarette, looking intensely not so much at as through you, speaking emphatically, ecstatically, with a sense of desperate urgency, leaning closer to your face in the camera, by which I mean towards the blue lens, the eyes of the room, the focal point of his sublimate home, by which I mean his solitude, by which I mean in one of his numerous short-term residences in a monochrome space where the report takes place as real event, yet one which now appears to be almost as if it had never happened, posthumously refabulated, i.e. as if it were by now an anecdotal non-event. Or perhaps vice versa. The speaking poet whom you are watching in the old documentary, obsessively citing Simone Weil by heart, leaning closer into your own space, seems in moments so convincingly real, by which I mean the figure of the spectral poet appears so actual, so organically alive, so vivid, as if projected in front of you, the transformative moment ready to burst, the present moment he's enveloped in, so palpable, so actual, the fabric, the fiber of his body, the fiber of the body of the room, the era too, tearing into your own, as if, as is, he were still alive, as if offering you an olive branch, and still speaking, as if he were able to expand the intricate tunnels of time he's gesticulating from, redoing, duplicating, doubling not only his own lifetime towards a future he had never lived or known, but your own so far unlived life now lived retrospectively, coiling backward towards a past you had never lived or known, as if charging until you are also transactionally charged. Érted? The phantomous poet, bereft of his own silhouette, posits the question again, lighting one cigarette after the next, beginning once again to quote Simone Weil by heart, both theatrical citer and spontaneous citation, their inseparable yet idiosyncratically separate duet of the same body of work, seemingly levitating in the same room as one in duplicate. But of course and naturally, citation by heart in the very moment of citing sabotages and thus discredits any sense of ownership of the actual citation. Or perhaps vice versa, the act or gesture of quotation from time to time creates, stimulates or simulates the aura of the qua genuine, the impossible original, bound to replicate. Beauty, thus, is a labyrinth, Pilinski continues, quoting from one of Weil's many unpublished notebooks, turning towards both camera and silent partner again, towards the documentarist whose presence remains concealed as hiatus, as intangible embodiment of an absent listener, the ideal interrogator, this impersonal impersonator throughout the entire conversation, whose intermittent, quiet, and short questions, often as if dismissed or interrupted by the speaking word, are just about audible to you, but in a way that the original question, as question itself, remains incomprehensible and become manifest or accessible or guessable from the actual execution of the question in the form of the poet's non sequiturs, produced with such pace, such unstoppable intensity. The conversation takes place with such immediacy, urgency, as if the speaking poet, who is not so much answering back as digressing from or talking parallel to the question, were running out of not so much tempo as air, with both hands gesticulating in the smoke-filled room. The left hand, you may have noticed, somewhat feeble, hanging, suspended mid-motion, as if the sign of some post-stroke weakness, the poet somewhat apologetically trying to both disclose and disguise. The right hand, turning the page, another cigarette slowly burning away in a half-empty, half-full ashtray, terrified eyes manifestly lighting up too, which some dare to enter, some turn back and retreat from them halfway through. In the center of this labyrinth, I'm nearly there. In the center of this labyrinth, I know you're taking a picture. In the center of this labyrinth, so in the center of this labyrinth is where you, if you're lucky, meet the mystic. Around within, say, a piece of writing, within the poem, perhaps which you can imagine as liminal, on some horizon more vertical than horizontal, or threshold between reality and fiction, which greets you, devours you, and spits you out so that you get thrown out of the catacomb again, outside which you, having failed the quest yourself, now urge others gently, hesitantly to enter. The further one drifts, the more able to fail to forget. Do you follow me? You might call this testifying, performed by co-I, the witness, a solitary walker of thresholds torn by seeing, your plans for the afternoon, the private trajectory of the city walk, repurposed by the algorithms of chance. Witnessing is a kind of detestation of the fact of such bad timing, you see, born from personal knowledge of our willful witness, by whom I mean the one who unfaithfully attests, who unwillingly bears testimony to scandal. This you might call our ultimate and ultimately lonely who, when prompted, is unsure if they saw what they saw, if they were here or weren't there, or if perhaps they were at all. One we may call the accomplice, the other the amnesiac, in other words. The former is the acrobatic thinker in real, unable to move an inch. The latter, the wobbly beer, paralyzed when prompted to think outside the book, the two unable to sink. And the one who fears or knows the same thing, this change, already irreversible, will turn whoever this one is who fears this change into a stranger, or for that matter, to whoever the other is, i.e. into someone else more than or outside myself. Sometimes we may also refer to the lone figure of the sightless witness, sometimes to the sky-eyed witness of silence. Sometimes we hear of the optimistic witness of the horror. Sometimes we say, we have an eyewitness. This latter is no more than a spectator from within, in other words, an insider. The one who repeats this very same silence, unable to retell or to recall, to recite, apprehensive to change. The one who can't believe their own eyes. And you see, witnessing either way, willful and unwilling, from within or from beyond, cannot be sealed, for it continues inwardly, corroding any future in front of you. Silence, like infestation, leaks through crevices and cracks of any fearing. Because you see, a witness's boundaries are both prohibitive and fixed. The latter we may well derive from instinct, from impulse, from an inherent drive to, at all costs, survive. The suspicious silencer, the diplomatic unseer, the gracious protector of upheld horizons. To repeat and to recite are two words apart, but our witness knows there is a risk, for bearing testimony brings a shift in the parameters of the horizon in hindsight, a potential change which could conceal and reveal both a threat and a promise, the rupture between the two, between the word and its actual reference or circumference, the fidelity or infidelity to it. Yet what brings them together is not so much a landmark as an eye mark, a focused, inaudible revolution which takes place in the focal point of the eye of the telepathic outsider, able to testify intuitively in advance. Bearing testimony requires lots of space, after all. It empties out what's domiciled and makes, reappropriates, reclaims room for all that's been abundant. Instead, you continue witnessing. You continue the witnessing until you cross the threshold, by then as part of panorama, torn in the torn vista, until you're gone to unaccounted for, until there is no one left inside but a wobbly witness stand.
Thanks, Aggie, that was brilliant. I'm going to take a minute to set up because I've got things, so just like 30 seconds. Sorry.
You need help?
I think I'm going to be okay. I just got lots of bits.
Oh, good.
So, yeah, be like 30 seconds.
How tall are you? Have a look.
That's about right? A bit tall, a bit more, perhaps?
More?
Yeah.
I know, but it might lose its balance.
Almost.
Yeah, that was good though. But it was just like thank you. No, I got it.
Very almost.
Well, are you writing it now?
Yeah, just finishing it. Absolutely.
Did you write it on the train?
Yeah, much was done on the train. It was very productive. Almost there, promise. Okay. Yeah, here we go. All right. Very almost there.
I can hear you, Marion. I can hear you mourning. Yeah.
All right. So hello everyone. Hi. So as Aggie said, I used to work at the University of Sheffield. I went to many amazing Centre of Poetry and Poetics readings. I've had some incredible experiences at them, so I was absolutely delighted to be invited here and not perform at a Centre of Poetry and Poetics event, but instead perform at in the pub. Yes, pub event. Yes, very good. So I went to Derby in 2017. So the first thing I'd like to read is a found poem. And it's the strategic framework of the University of Derby, 2018 to 2030 is the dates of it. And this was launched in a kind of like a rock concert when I was there. It was incredible. I mean, it was like there was a stage, there was almost fireworks, Vice Chancellor came on stage, etc., etc. And I won't do the detail of the framework, I'll just do the framework. So the University of Derby has one purpose. 3 pillars. What's a pillar? Our pillars shape what we do and how we do it. 6 strategic aims. Our strategic aims have been developed to give increased visibility to the 6 core areas of the university's activity that contribute to our success. They represent the things we need to be good at to succeed in the delivery of our pillars and overall purpose. Then there are 6 academic themes. Our research is focused into 6 academic themes that are aligned to the local and global challenges we face. And finally, there are 4 values. Our values govern how every member of the organisation approaches their work and how we approach each other. So, 1 purpose, 3 pillars, 6 strategic aims, 6 academic themes, and 4 values. However, recently, it was announced, and I quote, when our strategic framework was launched in 2018, there were 3 pillars. Since then, our ability to build on our strengths and capitalise on opportunities has led to the decision to now introduce a 4th pillar. So, we have 1 purpose, 4 pillars, 6 strategic aims, 6 academic themes, 4 values, and as of 16th October, 265 proposed redundancies. So, and we are on strike next week. So that's the first found thing. The second found thing is it's a document circulated at the end of the summer this year. It's more recent, it's more contemporary from the university. And it's the core principles of a future-focused academic model. There's 5 of them. So the first one is highly cohesive modules in blocks containing all learning and assessment with no minimal implied ordering of blocks at stage level. The second is beautiful. Digitally fueled, reusable learning objects, serving multiple modes. That's perfect. The third is student-centric and access-orientated with compact, fixed timetable. The fourth is on-campus learning, is active and industry integrated. And the fifth is personal development will be embedded in modular delivery and assessment. I'm just going to repeat that second one. That's really why we're here. Digitally fueled, reusable learning objects, serving multiple modes. And this is a brief kind of plug, but I thought this would be fun to do as well. So Ansgar, Alan sent me a review that he'd written of this book last week, and the review persuaded me to buy a copy. It's called "It's Tough at the Top," a Vice Chancellor special, and every sentence in the book begins with the Vice Chancellor. Every sentence. So I'm just going to read a couple at random, if that's okay.
Yes.
Okay. The Vice Chancellor said the question was tricky to answer. The Vice-Chancellor took an Uber. Okay, one more. The Vice-Chancellor acknowledged, should not laugh, that yes, everything does seem bleak. Okay, I shall move on from that to doing a few readings from the Dictionary of Neoliberal Terms. And we have all the editors present in the room, myself, Logan, and John Miller there. And it's here, it's in 4 lovely editions, designed by John Cannon. And I just thought a little bit of audience participation. So there's a few here I'd like to read, but perhaps we could have a show of hands at which ones you would like. So it is, as it appears to be, it is a dictionary of neoliberal terms. And they're all sort of short sort of definitions of them. So how about, does anyone want to hear the word value? Or scaffold? Tick box? Bottom line, so vote for tick box. Bottom line, or I'm in a good place right now.
Okay,
all right, I'm in a good place right now. Hold on just a second. So of course I need to find it. Yeah, okay. All right. I'm in a good place right now. Say the phrase again. Feel the power of the words. You deserve them. You have won the right to share them in conversation, casually and confidently, to friends, to family, on social media. These words comfort because they contain a philosophy of history. Robust, individual, cogent. Because it is not as if you have landed here in this good place by fate or chance. It is through your own work and the expenditure of your own hard-won resources that you have achieved this, wrestled with demons, slit their ugly frilled throats. You've been fighting for so long that you almost forgot you deserve to win those battles. The place you are in is now so good that perhaps even someone else might recognize that and be motivated out of admiration to say, I love you. There are casualties, of course, bodies cut and prone, bleeding out on the floor. You live amongst the fallen because they help you remember that this place, this good place, was fought for and can be lost again. So you will repeat the words, and they will remind you of the need to be watchful and alert for signs of any movement from the ground, an indication that history might repeat itself again. And that's and every dictionary, every entry has a quotation, and the quotation for this is from Jason Donovan, and
Yes.
the quotation is simply, "I'm in a good place right now." Okay. One more from the dictionary. So, show of hands for value, scaffold, was popular, tick box, not so popular, bottom line. Okay, no, it has to be scaffold. Right, sorry, it's going to be a little bit of a. Yeah, that's good. Okay, scaffold. I give you words to live for, to rub up against, to animate. Within them you will grow a form made from ideals, values, discipline. Our scaffolding is a mental framework of immense potential, a white world of searing lines, a cathedral of clean poetry. It will thicken like a child's limb, a baby thrown in the sky, vaulting in the heavens, growing into a vital youth, maturing into a resilient adult, there in the sky, crisscrossed in white lines, a negative human, flourishing in the space delineated by the steel of our planning. And to meet that accelerated thing in 10 years, healthy and strong, to shake its hand and know its grip was stitched by our words alone, that we uttered it into existence threaded its tissue with our tongues. Well, one can only approach such a future with the greatest sense of anticipation. One can only stride towards it, arms open, our step only measured by the humility of leadership. Okay.
What's the quote?
Yeah, what's the
Oh yeah, the quote. Sorry. It's from Steve Jobs. Your thoughts construct patterns like scaffolding in your mind.
Yeah.
That's the quote. Maybe one more from there. Yeah, I think just so that I know Logan is reading next, but I think I'll read an entry by John as well. So we have the three editors. So this is drill down. Beneath the rock of data lies the treasure of detail. Here, in the immense underworld of fractions and variables, below the glacial march of annual reports, among the sedimented monthly figures, we may find the terrible jewel we've been digging towards forever. Think of me, poised, relentless, and machinic, my whole life sharpened to a single point, pressing irresistibly into the skin of the earth. Nothing can be hidden from a force so concentrated. All in time will be laid bare, mined back to eternal certainties we can cling to when the final audit comes. And so I know you want a quotation.
Yes.
So it's from Fusion Charts, which is a great resource. Here we discuss a systemic way to create an intuitive drill-down interface for all your reports and dashboards. Okay. Yes. I thought I would read a recent poem. This is something from my day-to-day life, and it really is. Yes, it's called In the Vicar's Kitchen, and it was written after I sat in the vicar's kitchen. In the vicar's kitchen, in the vicarage, in the kitchen sitting with the vicar, having cake and coffee, being thankful it was coffee and not tea, for you are slightly allergic to tea. Cup now and again being fine, but never on an empty belly. That most African word, most beloved of your wife, belly. Perhaps Zambian word. One should not conflate Zambia and Africa in discussing language. Is that an intolerance to tea, not an allergy? There's a distance between you and the vicar. Of course, we are people and he is a vicar. We had performed a rite together, the two of us together in an otherwise empty church. You, the congregation, your battery's running low, and he, the priest. Epiphany, the last of Christmas, a realization. The wise men go see Herod and then the Christ. Their gift was wisdom, as the vicar said in his sermon. Not gold, not frankincense, not myrrh, but wisdom. His eyes off to the left, towards the door, avoiding me before him direct, listening, attentive, careful to respond when prompted, with the sign of the cross or a phrase, and also with you. This was planned, your presence this Friday. You can have my records, see whether they're worth anything or not, and come to Epiphany. Was there not thus an exchange? Special permission is needed to hold a mass without a congregation. I was there to welcome the wise men, whose gift is wisdom, was wisdom. But the records, of course, were worthless. Aren't they always? Can you say that yet? But the cake was excellent. Made locally, he said, alluding perhaps to parishioners baking, or even the nuns. and our conversation on the freedom of grandparents, most interesting. The house a delight, architecturally. The spirit, presence, perhaps. The ghost that seems to be your experience of that church and that person who was almost there. Okay. And then, if I'm okay with time, three short readings from the British Esperantists, which is something that I did with a friend, Paul Barron, who did most of the work in this, but published here at Sheffield, printed by the, is there still the print unit, the print department at the University of Sheffield? So printed this for a few times with them, and then afterwards got an email saying, we will not be taking any more projects from the British Esperantist on. So I was banned by the print unit. Anyway, yeah. So it's full of clippings. All of this is full of little clippings that amuse or delight or entertain. So here's one. I think it's from a novel. I'm not sure, I can't remember. It's not cited, I didn't put any citations in it. He noticed a large turd spread out on the rug between him and Mrs. Grass-Satcham. So he had been scared shitless sometime during the fight. He had not known when he spurted out the excrement. It did not matter. He was sure he had expelled the turd and not she. Although it was possible that she had when he had jumped on her face. It was, however, so far from her that he doubted it. Another passage. I'm not sure where this is from, but again, it's quite good. The bark of the dog is one of the least pleasant of animal vocalizations. It is monotonous and boring. A single note, usually repeated over and over again, to say, someone is approaching the house, or stand back, stranger, or a dog is on our property, or just, here I am. A professor of animal behavior at the University of Chicago counted the barks of the champion of barkers, the Cocker Spaniel. 907 barks in 10 minutes. My uncle had a cocker that could run that dog a good second. And I'm sorry to say, no one was unhappy when he died. Oh, that's good. Okay, I've got this and then one more poem. And this is a timeline for the future. This is a timeline of when things are going to be invented in the future from a 70s educational book, I'm pretty sure. It's pretty interesting, I think. So it begins in 1995 and ends in 2100. Okay, 1995, the end of tooth decay. Domestic video phone available. First use of tactical nuclear missiles in localized war. Creation of facsimile fresh fruit and vegetables in US laboratory. 1996, chemical creation of living cells. Done that. Legislation to abolish the use of coal and oil as fuels for heating. Be nice.
Nice.
Thermonuclear fusion, controlled and economically viable. 1998. World's first international city completed under South Polar ice. Population 500,000. 1999. Creation of intelligent artificial life achieved. It's my favorite. 2000. Semi-voluntary euthanasia at the age of 60, encouraged by the Department of Health. Semi-voluntary euthanasia. What's that? 2001, manufacture of elements to order. 2008, Bank of England withdraws cash and notes in favour of credit card economy. That's after the 500,000 city under the South Polar. 2010, compulsory birth control instituted. 2014, first 3 floating cities completed around coasts of Britain. 2016, this is good, the 2000s edition of Tomorrow's World. 2030, supersonic commuter land transport system opened. 2030, don't understand this. Average age of puberty reduced to 9 years old. 2100, global weather control program launched. Okay, and finally, so I thought, yes, well, thanks ever so much, Eddie, for inviting me here, and I'm very excited for Adam's book launch, and so I have written a poem in honour of Adam. Oh. And I thought, okay, I'll do this, and I thought I'd do a really clever kind of acrostic with really cunning kind of word play, etc. The sort he likes, you know, sort of. That did not work out. So in fact, yes, this is just an alphabet. Okay, it's an alphabet. So it's called Piette. My pronunciation is not going to be great for writers, but anyway, P is for pineal, named after its shape, which resembles a pine cone. The pineal gland is located in the epithalamus, near the centre of the brain, between the 2 hemispheres, tucked in a groove where the 2 halves of the thalamus join. An atrophied photoreceptor stimulated by darkness and inhibited by light. All vertebrates possess one, apart from the hagfish. Walruses possess unusually large pineal glands. Descartes believed it the principal seat of the soul and the place in which all our thoughts are formed. 1930s prisoners injected with secretions from cows' pineal glands demonstrate a reduction in the impulse to masturbate. At around the same time, George Bataille conceived of the pineal eye as the blind spot in Western rationality, an organ of excess and delirium. Decade by decade, the gland becomes corpora aranacea, or calcified brain sound. Adam's pineal gland has never calcified. I is for ichthyosaurus. Not that he is a dinosaur, but he is something massive, inscrutable, and wonderful. The first complete ichthyosaurus skull was found in Lyme Regis in 1811 and was sold for £23. Although they were known to be creatures of the deep sea, the Victorians depicted them as they did at the Crystal Palace on the shore, bathing in the surf, rather like walruses. Jules Verne, in Journey to the Centre of the Earth, describes the ichthyosaurus as having the snout of a porpoise, the head of a lizard, the teeth of a crocodile, with an eye glowing like a red-hot coal and as large as a man's head. or perhaps a walrus's pineal gland. Most famously, we have Conrad, who has Marlowe describe a deadened burst of mighty splashes and snorts, which reached us from afar, as though an ichthyosaurus had been taking a bath of glitter in the great river. That is also Adam. A bath of glitter in the great river. The first E is for engendering, to produce offspring, to procreate, to reproduce, to couple. He engenders much in others. He engenders engendering in others. The first T is for terrific. Because Adam's engendering is terrific in all senses of the word. He is a terrific colleague, mentor, writer, friend. But there is also terror here. A sense that returns us to the ichthyosaur. Massive, inscrutable, and wonderful. How has he read all that he has so evidently read? In both English and the French. And most terrific of all, how can he recall all that he has read? John Milton, the serpent, subtlest beast of all the field, of huge extent sometimes, with brazen eyes, and hairy mane terrific, though to thee not noxious, but obedient at thy call. The second T is for tintinnabulating. I could have had trilling, I could have had thrumming, I could have had trembling, twinkling, or twanging. I needed something musical, something connected to sound. Tintinnabulating means to ring or make a sound like that of bells. In my alphabet of Adam, it stands for his affinity to music, sound, and wordplay. And it arrives from Edgar Allan Poe in his onomatopoeic poem, The Bells. To the tintinnabulation that so musically wells from the bells, 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 bells. The final E is for equanimity, a borrowing from French. Fairness of judgment, evenness of mind, of spirit, of temper, unruffledness, tranquility even. In chapter 2 of the Bhagavad Gita, we have, perform your duty equipoised, O Arjuna, abandoning all attachment to success or failure. Such equanimity is called yoga. It is essential to Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Baha'i, Taoism, Stoicism, and even Epicureanism, which holds pleasure as the greatest good. But the way to attain such pleasure is through achieving ataraxia, or equanimity. Equanimity. In Buddhism, equanimity is one of the 4 sublime attitudes which produces a radiance and warmth of being. The Buddha described a mind filled with equanimity as abundant, exalted, immeasurable, without hostility and ill will. And I'm not saying that Adam has achieved Buddha-like generosity of spirit or yoga-like flexibility in the febrile environment in which he works, but there are tintinnabulating echoes of this warmth of being in the air around him. And I think anyone who has worked or studied in higher education can sense it, emanating from somewhere that can only resemble the unusually enlarged pineal gland of the walrus. And so we have Adam here. Pineal ichthyosaurus engendering terrific tintabulating equanimity. Thanks. Yes, no worries. We brought quite a lot of editions of the Dictionary of Neoliberal Terms, which, if my editors agree, we could give away for free.
Yes.
Or every copy of Adam's book could come.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a great one.
Do you want me to do the mic now?
I'm sure I can handle it. Can I not? Oh, maybe not. Okay, good. Let's have a look.
All right.
So this is 22 minutes long, and it's a fragment from a sort of book that I wrote about the relationships of my mother, who I refer to as Absorbalov, who is a creature from a Doctor Who episode, and it's an immense corpse-coloured being absorbing its victims into the mass of its flesh.
Oh, wow. Okay.
When we were kids, Sis and I called Mother's recurring rages tornadoes, measured in the real world according to the Fujita scale, since 2007, replaced by the enhanced Fujita scale, beginning at light, F0, moving through moderate, F1, considerable, F2, severe, F3, devastating, F4, incredible, F5, and ending with the inconceivable, F6. Wikipedia tells me that only 2 tornadoes have ever been rated F6, a category rendered in grey, while the rest of the scale gradually arrives at a flaming red. The 1970 Lubbock, Texas, and the 1974 Xenia, Ohio events, both happening during the Nixon presidency, and later downgraded to F5. F6, with winds over 319 miles per hour, is subsequently declared unthinkable. These 2 exceptionally violent tornadoes form part of what became known as the 1974 super outbreak, with 30 F4 and F5 events, among over 100 confirmed across 13 US states and the Canadian province of Ontario. Another super outbreak, defined by the number of tornadoes taking place within a 24-hour period, occurred in 2011 in the US. Looking over the parameters of the scale, I miss seeing obliterating somewhere, probably at F5, the colour of Mother's face when losing the plot. One of the most memorable occasions was circa 1997 in Sitges, close to Barcelona, on holiday, the period that gives rise to our naming of Absorbalovian rage as tornado. Sis surreptitiously gets a tongue piercing, setting off a 24-hour super outbreak instantly in the F5 range. Sis is attempting to eat spaghetti in the immediate aftermath of getting the piercing. We're sitting somewhere outside in Sitges town centre. We're there with friends plus mummy daddy, the only way teenage Sis and I can stomach to go on hauls with mum plus dad is if we're each allocated a travelling companion and granted permission to go off on our own. We're sitting there having lunch. I'm contemplating getting an eyebrow piercing and Sis is having a hard time with the spaghetti. It's clear that eating hurts. We don't tell Mother, who nonetheless intuits it somehow and weeps in the bathroom, naked but for her white slip, her head bright red, F5. I've always found her nipples repulsive. You should be buying things that everyone likes, she screams while slapping on body lotion, continuing that Sis will get AIDS and bursting into tears every time she sees us, emerging out of the elevator for breakfast and dinner. It takes 2 days for Sis to take out the piercing. The minute she does, the storm subsides. The project for the eyebrow piercing is, in the meantime, shelved. Daddy, in the living room of their apartment, stays silent and out of range. Sis's tongue piercing is a reminder that we are not, in reality, self-objects, though Mother manages, as is usually the case, to force us back into alignment. From her perspective, her body did something against her will, which explains the fury of her reaction. That rage is the defining aspect of my childhood. There's another image that prevails. At night, before falling asleep, I lie in bed on my back, the wall at my head and facing towards the window. To the left, my granddad's on mother's side, heavy, dark wardrobe, my desk and a bookshelf to the right. There are 2 doors to my bedroom, one at the back next to the bed, leading towards a pantry of some kind, which mother later converts into a small living room. Another one to the right, giving access to Sis's pass-through bedroom, mother constantly barging in through whichever door. The windows in my room are framed by thick, dark blue drapes. I hardly ever close them, certainly not until I'm older. I'm terrified of the dark, keep waking up disoriented after nightmares of vertiginous falling. I get up, not able to find either door, trying to find or feel out familiar shapes. In the folds of each of the open drapes, I hallucinate a figure, female on the one side, male on the other, both standing bolt upright. I keep staring at the figure I imagine on the left, close to the wardrobe, part of the room that's even darker, presided over by that monolith. The figure has short, wild ginger hair, her bright eyes, like in the poster for a movie I see years later, The Eyes of Laura Mars from 1978, shooting out into the darkness. In her right hand, she holds a knife, blade held upwards, shining with reflected light. The figure of the dead mother is a trope that Andre Green discusses in relation to depression, making the mother or primary caregiver inaccessible. He explains that the dead mother is a mother who remains alive, but who is, so to speak, psychically dead in the eyes of the young child in her care. Rather than source of vitality, she turns into a distant figure, toneless, practically inanimate, a transformation that brings with it the sense for the child of being abandoned or erased, a catastrophe with a cold core of abrupt detachment or aversion. If another figure, the father, as Green writes, has been discovered, it is likely that he does not or cannot respond to the child's distress, leaving it caught between a dead mother and an unavailable father. The consequences for the child are considerable, not least of which is the loss of meaning, the relationship of the mother having collapsed without reason. The child might feel responsible for the collapse or look for the culprit, suspected to be the father. This loss of meaning further engenders a whole series of defense mechanisms, beginning with what Green calls the psychical murder accomplished without hatred of the mother. Because she's gone, you learn to do without, leaving a hole in the texture of object relations with the mother. The dead or murdered mother is, as a result, unconsciously installed as an identificatory object in the child's psyche, trying to get rid of the object and preserving it at the same time. The child is, in a sense, turning itself into a zombie, prone to repetition compulsions and the frantic need to play, to chasing organ pleasure at the limit without tenderness, ruthless. All of these compulsions are designed to overcome the loss of the mother. Bearing in mind that the child is left alone without help, these compulsions are designed to be auto-reparative, consisting of intellectualizations, playing to oblivion, the compulsion to think and to imagine, the desire to dance, like in the 1948 film The Red Shoes, ending in death through sheer exhaustion. The hole at the center of the ego remains, its vulnerability evident in the child's severely damaged emotional domain. Green's descriptions of the suffering of someone rent apart and patching themselves back together, all the while enshrining the love for the dead mother in the oubliettes of the unconscious repressed, keep evoking coldness, burning like ice. Anna Lazan's field chilled to the bone. On the other hand, I discern echoes of those elements of my personality in its deep Absorber-Loffian structuring that I think I know. The figure of the dead mother resonates, even if it doesn't totally map onto Absorber-Loff, alternating between her depressive and grandiose phases, thereby either neglectful or overbearing. Nonetheless, that nightmare image of her likeness, lower half merging into drape, bears a resemblance to Green's toneless, practically inanimate figure, dead as she is to the world. My undead mother, though, with her raised knife, a phallic and castrating mother, wishes me harm, every aspect of her being, eyes, hand, alert to potential failings or wrongdoings on my part. The other figure, male and silent, does nothing to come to my rescue, but disappears into the shadows. In the absence of a father, Dad is dead in Green's sense long before he dies of cancer. I look to Freud to help me, even if Freud too fails to look closely at the mother. For Freud, she barely appears. In The Theme of the Three Cascades from 1913, he analyzes the three inevitable relations that a man has with a woman: the woman who bears him, the woman who is his mate, and the woman who destroys him, corresponding to the three functions a patriarchal culture ascribes to women, the latter of which is the goddess of death. But the death goddess, as well as women's other functions, remain above all libidinal. They are seductive objects, sirens, and therefore idealized. In his study on Leonardo da Vinci, Freud considers the unfathomable smile on the sinuous, elongated lips of da Vinci's subjects, the most famous of which is the Gioconda. The smile, which constantly recurs in his work, had impressed itself on the fabric of the painter's dreams, retaining the charm of the lost mother. Da Vinci was given away as a boy. The mother, absent and idealized, is enchanting, maybe a little sinister, but not bad or hated. This is the extent to which Freud can conceptualize the relationship of the boy-child to the mother. One of Freud's students, Carl Abram, begins working on the concept of the bad mother, a relationship characterized by repressed hatred, in 1909, leading to the publication in 1911 of a study of the Italian painter called Giovanni Segantini. Segantini painted 6 pictures, the so-called Nirvana pictures, between 1890 and 1893, on the theme of bad mothers. He also has a number of paintings featuring the good kind, of which Abram includes Le Cattivi Madri from 1894, the wicked mothers, in the original German version of his paper. The painting on display at the Belvedere in Vienna shows in the foreground a woman caught in a low, denuded, twisted tree. It's winter, there's snow on the ground, a mountain range on the horizon, nature frostbound, as Abram observes. She appears curiously cocooned, arched backwards, her dress wrapped around her, spun into an enclosure attached to the tree. Her breasts are exposed, one of her arms is outstretched. She's trying to pry herself loose from the tree in which her hair is entangled. Between the outstretched arm and her exposed upper body, the child's head with flaming red hair is visible, sucking at her breast. It seems to be enfolded in the woman's garment, as neither of her arms are free to hold it. She's clearly distressed, perhaps already exhausted from the struggle to free herself. The sun is setting, its last rays illuminating the background on the lower right-hand side. When I go to the Belvedere, throngs of people are there to see Gustav Klimt's Der Kuss, but the room with Segantini's painting is also surprisingly busy. Later on in the gift shop, looking for a book on the painting, I see all sorts of commodities, including fridge magnets, for sale bearing a close-up of the woman caught in the tree. The painting itself is much larger than I expected. Segantini's strokes clearly visible, the landscape iridescent. I'm moved by the painting, standing entranced, as are others, our gaze riveted to the woman in the foreground. She seems so lonely and in agony, so bereft of comfort. It's only later when I show a picture of the painting to a friend that we notice a second woman in the tree towards the horizon on the left. She's arched backwards as if she were doing a high jump, arrested in the moment that her body adopts what is called the Fosbury flop, head first, back to the bar. The distance between her and the woman in the foreground looks immeasurable. Only the bulbous, grotesquely exposed root of the tree, resembling a big belly spider, creeps into the void of the landscape. Le Cattivi Madri reminds me, in terms of its melancholic landscape and eerie stillness, of another one of Freud's patients, the Wolfman, who renders his own dream in an evocative painting of a denuded, crownless tree standing in a winter landscape. On its branches sit, distributed, 5 white wolves fixing their gaze onto the viewing subject. Freud interprets Wolfman's painting as primal scene, the child's fear and desire to be gobbled up by daddy. Abrams' analysis of Le Cattivi Madri suggests a scene of a child clinging to a mother who can't give enough. Abram argues that these Nirvana paintings are sadistic, vengeful, punishing the mother for having left her child. Segantini's mother died when he was 5 years old. The father abandoned them shortly after, emigrating to the United States. In his autobiography, Segantini writes that he feels guilty for his mother's death, who apparently never recovered from childbirth. The child's guilt is followed by attempts at reparation, taking the form, as Abrams shows, of an obsessional neurosis. The memory of the loved one is cherished with excessive fervor and becomes sanctified. The mother is idealized, her memory transformed into a cult. Mother worship, the center of Segantini's whole inner world, relies, however, on repressed hatred, despite at the same time functioning as act of atonement. The primitive eroticism of the child seeks to absolutely possess its object, meaning that the child is violently envious of anyone else having access to the object of its love. Love and hate are both aspects of the libido, a theory with which Abram is broadly in agreement with Freud. The sadistic impulse is repressed at the mother's death. No one can claim her attention anymore. The child can enshrine or enshroud her in fantasy formation, but it remains as active trace, buried in the unconscious. In the bad mother paintings, the impulse returns. The mother caught in the tree, or those drifting across snowfields in La punizione della lussuria, the punishment of lust, articulate the desire to see her condemned to cold wastelands, eternally unanchored, without rest. For want of a mother, Segantini becomes an artist whose work sublimates the libidinal drives of the child left behind. The bad mother is, as such, a trope that has to do with the instinctual fixation of an obsessional neurotic who cycles through periods of depression. Abram later theorizes depression. He's one of the first to investigate it and contributes to Freud's 1917 study on mourning and melancholia as a state in which the sadistic impulse dominates over and above everything else. I am unable to love the world. I hate the world. I suddenly recognize Absorbalov in Margaret White, played by Piper Laurie, standing behind the door to her daughter's attic bedroom at the top of the stairs in Brian De Palma's Carrie, 1976. She's been waiting there for Carrie to return home from her spring dance, during which time she has been planning her daughter's sacrificial murder. The whole house is full of candles. The mother is a religious fundamentalist, her daughter's period, the catalyst for Carrie's telekinesis, also setting off Margaret White's steeper descent into fanaticism. The house looks ablaze from the outside even before it goes up in flames. The usually comforting view of the lit, almost symmetrical windows on each side of the door, presaging death by burning because fire purifies. The score, composed by Pino Donaggio, who goes on to work with Brian De Palma on a number of his films, accompanies Carrie, blood-soaked and in a state of shock, into the house, up the stairs, into the attic, towards her bedroom. Organ music combined with brass, the mother's theme, follows Carrie, who throughout the film is sung sympathetically, wistfully, as she creeps up the stairs, keeping her eyes peeled for the mother. We see her in a long white nightgown next to a half mannequin, the dress form that Carrie used to fashion her prom gown. Margaret's head and face, framed by her wild red hair so like mother's, is deep in shadow, wedged as she is behind the bathroom door. Only one arm is visible, hanging rigidly at her side. She's standing still, silent, as inanimate as the dress form. Carrie doesn't see her as she crosses into the bathroom to wash off the pig's blood dumped on her as she was voted prom queen. When she switches on the light, her mother's face becomes illuminated, her eyes wide open and as unmoving as her posture. After she's cleaned herself, emerging from the bathroom, Carrie calls out to her mum, who steps out of her hiding place, appearing to offer a hug. She strokes Carrie's hair and back in long, sweeping gestures, as if her hands performed a cleansing ritual, her movements washing away her daughter's sins. They sink down to the floor, praying, Carrie still in her mother's arms, as Margaret reaches for a butcher's knife, catching the light of the candles. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, so what we're going to do is